I used to be a Weird Warriors kid. Now I'm a Weird Warriors adult. Each week I'm discussing a chapter of the iconic books by Aaron Hunter. My name is Charlie, and this is my cat Lucky. And in today's episode, I will be talking about the prologue of Prophecies Begin, Book 2, Fire and Ice. Join me on this adventure into the world of warrior cats. I'm very excited for today's episode because we're finally moving on to book 2. I'm super proud of myself for getting so far into this podcast. There's a tuft of Lucky's hair floating in the air. And I hope there are many, many more. There are so many Warriors books, and I really want to keep this podcast going and cover all of them. My plan is to go completely in publishing order. I have a whole spreadsheet going of all the different books and everything. So I'm very excited to continue. And before I dive into this episode, I want to remind you that if you'd like access to bonus content, which I just released a bunch of between the last episode of Book 1 and this first episode of Book 2, then you can subscribe for just $5 a month on Substack. The bonus episodes I just released, I did one of going over the allegiances section of Into the Wild, where those are the pages that have like the descriptions of what all the characters look like and which clan they're in and what their position is in the clans. And that was really interesting to read after reading the book. And I think I'm going to do the same thing for all the books going forward. And then I did a bonus episode of watching and reacting to a fan-made Warrior Cats movie adaptation using Littlest Pet Shops. It was by the YouTuber Pink Bunny Girl, and I really enjoyed reacting to that. It was a long process to edit because it's almost a 3-hour-long video. So if you like long-form content, that one will definitely be for you. And then I also did a bonus episode of reacting to a video on YouTube that Hank Green made about the theology of the warrior cats, which I found to be really interesting. It became a very philosophical discussion about religion and the afterlife and things like that. So if you're interested in that kind of conversation, you'd like that. And also at the end of that video, I give an anecdote about the trials and tribulations of the star string lights in the background of this set. If you've noticed, they were off for several episodes, and I kind of explain why in that bonus episode. So if you want to get that behind the scenes type of details and stories, as well as long form content where I'm reacting to other people's videos about the Warriors franchise and things like that, then definitely make sure to subscribe. You also, by subscribing, get access to the comment section, and you also get access to extended spoiler versions of each episode. Now, I recently had someone ask me, how do you have a non-spoiler version of the episode? Don't you talk about the chapter in the episode? Isn't that spoiling the chapter? So my response to that is, yes, in the non-spoiler version, I am talking about everything leading up to that chapter. What I mean by non-spoiler is that I'm not going to spoil anything that comes after that chapter. So if I get to a part in the chapter that reminds me, oh yeah, when I read this series as a kid, I remember this character and that they're going to die at this later point in the saga, I will say that, but I'll cut it out of the non-spoiler version of the episode. And since there are typically several moments like that throughout each chapter, the spoiler version ends up being a couple minutes longer than the non-spoiler version. And the reason I offer those two different versions is because I want this podcast to be for anyone who's interested in warrior cats, no matter your level of how deep you are into the lore. So I personally am very anti-spoilers. When I'm going into a story, 99.99% of the time, I do not want any spoilers whatsoever about what I'm going into, because you can only experience it for the first time once. So I want to really be new and going into it without knowing what to expect. But at the same time, I know that for people like me who grew up reading it and now maybe they're an adult feeling nostalgic and want to look back on the series, they might not mind getting all these spoiler versions and reminiscing with me and remembering and trying to look back and think which things happened to which characters and getting excited to read that in the future, and also noticing when foreshadowing is happening in the books for these things to happen. But I put that behind a paywall because I don't want that to be something that you accidentally stumble upon. I don't want to be accidentally spoiling stuff for people. So I want you to sign up to get things spoiled if you are fine with that. So that's why I have it be like that. So anyway, that's my spiel to start this episode off. But let's start to get into Fire and Ice. Finally, my thumbnails for this podcast are going to start having a different book in the corner. I think this book is so pretty. Like, look at that cover. I think the orange and blue contrast is very pretty with the blue center art piece that is used for a lot of the chapter arts, where I believe it's supposed to be Fireheart and Graystripe with the moon behind them during their silent vigil right after becoming warriors. And then this orange sunset or maybe sunrise. And I think this is supposed to be a river, but I was also thinking maybe it's snow. It kind of looks like there's snow on the grass here, and it looks like a battle is happening. And these cats are also very pretty, and their eyes glowing. Looks pretty cool. On the back, they're standing on some rocks and battling. I wonder if each of these cats is like intentionally based off of specific characters, because I'm having trouble recognizing them as any characters in particular. But then let's look at the summary. Fire alone can save our clan. Fireheart is a ThunderClan warrior cat now, but danger still lurks in the forest, and possibly closer than he thinks. With the chill of winter settling in, the cats of rival RiverClan are growing restless, while WindClan is weak and facing threats from all sides. As tensions build to an explosive climax, Fireheart faces not only imminent battle, but betrayal from within his own clan. This is interesting. I wonder why they're such rivals with RiverClan. Like, I know they have this dispute over the Sunning Rocks territory, but Crooked Star, the leader of RiverClan, does not seem very assertive. Like, if we remember at the gathering, he just kind of gave in to ShadowClan's demands. Now, I guess his clan was very angry about that, so maybe they are more combative than him when it comes to their relationship with ThunderClan. I also think it's interesting that ShadowClan is not mentioned at all in this summary. I guess they are giving ShadowClan some time to recover from the events of Book 1, so maybe they're a lot less of a focus in this book. And then praise for Warriors Book 1 Into the Wild, action-packed adventure, certain to please any reader who has ever wondered what dreams of grandeur may haunt the family cat. Publishers Weekly. And a suspenseful animal adventure that will leave readers eyeing Puss a bit nervously. Kirkus Reviews. I'm curious if Book 1 had those types of reviews on it. Yeah, the exact same ones are on the back of Book 1. I don't know if I ever read the summary for Book 1. It said, for generations, 4 clans of wild cats have shared the forest according to the laws laid down by their warrior ancestors. But the ThunderClan cats are in grave danger, and the sinister ShadowClan grows stronger every day. Noble warriors are dying, and some deaths are more mysterious than others. In the midst of this turmoil appears an ordinary house cat named Rusty, who may turn out to be the bravest warrior of them all. These are both good summaries. Oh, and the cover art of both of them is by Wayne McLaughlin. and cover design by Karen Poprocki. Okay. And then one thing I noticed in book 2, I didn't notice it in book 1, but when you flip through, well, it says keep watch for Warriors book 3, Forest of Secrets, and then it has a little excerpt. I am not going to read that now. I don't know if it's from book 3 or book 2. And then Warriors, and it lists book 1 through 5. So I guess when book 2 came out, they hadn't written book 6 yet, or maybe, I don't know how that works. Like, were all of these already released and this book was just printed after up till book 5 was released, or were these all written but not released yet? And then this one's just being released now. Like, I don't know how that process works. But anyway, then when you go over to this page, the publisher page or copyright page, I'm not sure what to call it, it says kind of in the middle of the page, summary. Fireheart, a full-fledged warrior cat, must confront questions of loyalty and identity as he faces the possibility of betrayal from within his own forest clan. Okay. I guess it's foreshadowing that someone's going to betray Fireheart in this book, and I have no idea who that is. I have no memory of that. But I think it's interesting that that summary is different than the one on the back of the book. It's almost like the one on the back of the book is to get the readers drawn in, and the one in the inside is like to get publishers or book distributors drawn in to take the book deal or whatever. Like, I don't know how that works. Someday I think it would be really cool to be a published author, so I feel like I should learn about this type of thing. It also has some keywords like cats, fiction, fantasy. Interesting. I want to see the book 1 if that has the same thing. Oh my gosh, the cat hair stuck to the book. That's like the most Warrior Cats podcast thing ever. Okay. Oh yeah, it does not have the same summary type of a thing in this one. And also the dedication is on the same page as like this copyright page. And then immediately after that is the allegiances. Whereas in book 2, the copyright page is like its own page. The next page is the dedication. Then there's a blank page, and then it's the allegiances. Interesting. But the dedication says, "For my son Joshua, whose smiles kept me happy as I wrote, and Vicky, my editor, without whom Fireheart would never have become a warrior. Special thanks to Kate Carey." So when it's saying for my son Joshua, I think that's Kate Carey writing. And then separately it says special thanks to Kate Carey. Because there's multiple Aarons. I even think Vicky, the editor, is considered one of the Aaron hunters. And Kate Carey is just the Aaron that wrote this book in particular. She also wrote book 1. And Vicky is the editor. And I think she had the vision for a lot of the story overall, and then worked with other people to craft it fully. So it's definitely a very collaborative effort, and that's inspiring to me to get out of my comfort zone and work with more people and be more vulnerable and share my ideas with people and be creative and do more art. I love art. I love writing. I love storytelling. So yeah, to this day, these books are still inspiring me. And then we have Allegiances, which I'm going to skip for now. And after I finish this book, I will review those for another bonus episode. And then we have the map, which is the same as book 1. And then we have the 2-leg version of the map. And I just wanted to compare that with book 1 to see if they're the same, because I didn't realize that High Stones was a disused mine. I think that's interesting. Yep, it says the same thing in book 1. So yeah, it's all the same. But anyway, enough about all that. Now, we're finally to the prologue. The chapter art is the same as the cover art. The 2 cats with the moon behind them. And here we go. Orange flames lapped at the cold air. That little sentence is like fire and ice. Like the title, flames and the cold. Throwing sparks up into the night sky. The firelight flickered across a wasteland of ragged grass, making silhouettes of the 2 legs huddled there. I think this is interesting that 2 legs are appearing here. I feel like I didn't remember many interactions with the 2 legs beyond Rusty and his owner or owners at the beginning of the story, but here it is like direct interaction with them. And when it was describing the fire, at first I was thinking, oh, is this like a forest fire? Is this a dream about some horrible thing happening? But later I kind of figure out what I think it's describing. But it says a pair of white lights appeared in the distance, the approach of a monster. I was thinking, is this a fire truck? And then it says at the edge, a cat moved and more cats followed. And one cat asks it, what if the two legs see us? And a large tom with eyes like amber discs reflecting the firelight says they won't. Their night sight is weak. It says the flames lit up the black and white fur on his powerful shoulders. And when it said that, I thought, is this Tallstar, leader of Wind Clan? And sure enough, a gray queen says, Tallstar, why have we come here? Now remember, Wind Clan was driven out by Shadow Clan in the last book, and we didn't see Wind Clan at all in book 1. So this is exciting that we're finally hearing the names of some of them and getting to see where they've been. And the Grey Queen is named Ashfoot. Tallstar says, we've been driven out of every place we've tried to settle. Maybe we can find some peace here. She's like, peace? Here? And she has a kit sheltering under her belly. With fire and monsters, my kids won't be safe. And another voice says, but we weren't safe at home. And this is a black tom with a twisted paw. And a young apprentice worries, Broken Star and his warriors may still be hunting us. Well, luckily we know that's not true. But that cry alerts a two-leg, and it looks toward the cats, but of course can't see them in the darkness. And it says, the two-leg flung something toward them. The missile flew over their heads and exploded in a burst of thorn-sharp pieces on the thunder path behind. Now, my best guess of what that is like a beer bottle, and a shard grazes Ashfoot's shoulder, and the two-leg spits on the ground and sits back down next to the fire. So when it said that, I realized, oh, this is a campfire. I think there's these two legs like gathered round a campfire, drinking and whatever. And Tallstar asks the black tom with the twisted paw, Deadfoot, take one whisker and see if you can find anything to eat. If there are two legs, there must be rats. Now, a couple things I have to say here. One, Deadfoot, and I feel like there's a lot of other cats that end up having their names be based on their disability or injury. That's ableist, right? I'm curious how the disabled community feels about that, so please let me know in the comments. Because, I understand they're trying to identify different cats by their distinguishing features, like their fur color or tail length, or if they have, what looks almost like a lion's mane or tiger's claws, But when it starts being oh, your name is Deadfoot because you have a foot that is deformed, it seems like you're defining someone based on their disability. I don't know. It just seems ableist to me. So let me know your thoughts. And then the other thing is the other cat's name is One Whisker. Does he literally only have one whisker? It'd be interesting if they released him as merch and only gave him one whisker. But none of the merch has whiskers. I wish they all had whiskers, and then he just had one. That would be kind of funny. But anyway, they're ordered by Tallstar to go look for rats, which of course Ashfoot is upset about. This is what it's come to. We're eating rats now. But a tortoiseshell beside her says, rat meat is better than starving to death. And then the tortoiseshell, who is still not named, says, Morning Flower needs to rest and eat. Her kits will be born soon. She needs to be strong. So this is heightening the stakes, one of the cats being pregnant while they're away from home. I feel like this might be supposed to represent when native communities are driven out of their territory. But then Deadfoot and One Whisker come back, and Deadfoot says, you were right, Tallstar. There are rat scents everywhere, and I think I've found somewhere we can shelter. So the clan follows toward the raised thunder path, the firelight making their shadows loom against its huge stone legs. I'm trying to picture that. Is it like a highway overpass or like a bridge? Or what is it? And then there's a black tunnel that sloped down into the ground. A constant stream of water trickled into it. And Deadfoot says it's fresh and they'll be able to drink it. Is this like a sewer? And Ashfoot complains they'll have wet paws. But Deadfoot reassures her that there's a space inside away from the stream. And Tallstar says WindClan has been traveling long enough. It's been nearly a moon since ShadowClan drove them away. Leaf Bear, or winter, is approaching, so they have no choice but to stay. And Ashfoot joins the rest of the clan as they filed into the shadowy tunnel. And that's the end of the prologue of Fire and Ice. I think it's a really good setup. I'm so excited to see Fireheart in action as a warrior. I wonder if it's going to pick up right where we left off, where they're at the vigil with Fireheart and Greystripe, or if there's going to be some time that has passed. But in that chapter, I think it was an interesting writing challenge to describe WindClan's surroundings from the cat's perspectives and their perception of two-leg structures, while still trying to have the reader understand what was being described. So like the campfire, the tunnel, like I don't know if it was fully executed well because I was still confused about where they are. Although maybe that was also kind of the goal, but I don't think you want your readers to be confused. I think you want them to be asking questions, but not so much that it distracts and takes you out of the story. So I was a little bit too confused about where they were in that prologue, but it's not a big deal. The point is they were near some two legs and they're risking a lot and they're scared and hungry and lost, but they finally found some place, so at least they have some form of shelter. But yeah, I'm excited we're finally seeing WindClan, and I'm excited for the rest of this book. In the title, Fire and Ice, I'm interested to see more of how that's incorporated into the book. I mean, the opening sentence was describing the campfire and the cold air, and winter's approaching. Our main character's name is Fireheart. But anyway, I'm really happy to be in book 2. I feel very accomplished and proud of myself, and I hope we gain more listeners to this podcast. So if you like it, please share this with your friends or people on the internet who you know also like warriors. I've also thought about maybe making a little poster or something to hang up like on bulletin boards at public locations like libraries or bookstores or cafes or something, to see if that's a way to get people to find out, because I struggle with like the whole advertising thing when it comes to content creation. That's not the part I enjoy. The part I enjoy is making the content, reading the books, talking about them. I don't like advertising, posting clips and all that. So I don't know. We'll see how I get the word out about this, because I feel like still not many people know this podcast exists. But if you are an early supporter, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to continuing on this adventure with y'all. So with that, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you next week. This has been Into the World of Warrior Cats.